Nobody says, do not be afraid, unless somebody is already afraid. Nobody wakes you up from a nap after lunch when you're breezily feeling like maybe things will turn out okay after all. To say, hey, I saw you resting and digesting there in that shady hammock on this perfect summer afternoon, and well, just wanted you to know there's nothing to be afraid of, nothing at all. My name is Zach Wilette. I found my way to St. Stephen's in 2000, which is somehow 20 years ago. And I want to talk about fear. Our slice of Matthew today comes from Jesus teaching his disciples that following him is not just about listening and watching. He shows what kind of a leader he is by sharing his power, giving this ragtag bunch of learners the same ability that he has to cast out unclean spirits and cure every disease and every sickness. This sounds empowering to us now, but at the time, it meant that they were making the shift from watching driver's ed movies to taking the wheel. You remember the instructions they were given. Don't bring money, or even a second pair of sandals. If you are a practical disciple, and I know some of you are, this idea alone, no money, no sandals, is enough to stir up fear. Then, just in case they missed it, Jesus said, see, I am sending you out like sheep in the midst of wolves. And that, who thinks that's a good idea? Jesus goes on to mention flogging and getting dragged in front of governors, serious foreshadowing right there, and even, quote, you will be hated by all because of my name. So with that as preparation for what you heard today, when Jesus finally gets to this, so do not be afraid of anything part, his followers are well aware in great detail of precisely the things they are afraid of. I'm making this point because 2,000 years later, we need to hear it that way too. Precisely aware of the things we are afraid of. Because Jesus's words are not blasé encouragement that nothing scary will happen. They are specific encouragement to face the fears that are real. Fear of a global pandemic that has been irreparably mishandled. Fear of elections with more misinformation and hacking than last time. Fear of automatic weapons in the hands of desperate people. Fear from so much racial hatred and political polarization that we aren't even really talking to each other anymore. Fear of getting shot while jogging, lynched while shopping, or beat up within an inch of your life because you are a transgender person of color. Fear of what will happen if you use your privilege to speak up. And fear of what will happen if you don't. Fear of the droughts and wildflowers and superstorms and floods and landslides and locusts and extinctions from climate change that some say can't be stopped and others say isn't even happening. Fear of war, fear of poisoned water, fear of police violence and family violence, or the violence that comes as words and cuts as deep as any knife or deeper. If that little litany of fears, which we all know could rightfully be much longer, if that little litany of fears has you feeling an ache in your stomach right now, or a cramp around your heart right now, well, I feel it too. Where else in your body do you feel fear? It is important to pay attention. And with that felt fear front and center, we are ready to hear the gospel, the good news from Jesus. And this time I'm going to do it in everyday modern language. Before he sent them out, Jesus said, let's talk about fear. Don't give bullies free rent in your head. Everything will come out in the open eventually, so go ahead and be public with truth right now. The violence that those in power will do to me and to you is not the last word. It affects your body, and that is rough. But pay attention to what kills your spirit, because that you have some control over. Think of the creatures that count for close to nothing in this world. The Creator who loved them into being cares about them enough to know when they are having a bad day. Same with you, but more so. There is a lot that will make you afraid. But hear this. Don't stay afraid. We're in this together. Now, I don't know about you, but hearing that, makes me ready to give this discipleship thing a shot. A lot more than this basically prosperity gospel notion that if you do good, good stuff will happen to you. Because we know that's not true. So let me say that in another way. Facing scary things and not staying afraid. Notice it's not never becoming afraid in the first place. It's not staying afraid. That will get us a lot further than thinking that good results just magically show up because we have good intentions. If we are going to end racial injustice, end white supremacy, end the violence that is poverty, poverty in a world of plenty, then we are going to face a lot of that which makes us afraid. And if we think that good stuff will happen to us merely because we are trying to do good or trying to be good, we will not last a week, my friends. In my work as a chaplain, I have seen that God who removes our barriers is actually a lot harder to find than God who strengthens our overcoming. The apostles were afraid of bodily harm and people who intimidate. Jeremiah was afraid he wasn't enough and wouldn't know what to say. Paul was afraid of despair and darkness. We are afraid that everything is going to hell in a handbasket and nothing we do will make a difference. And to each of these felt fears, God has the same radical, loving, patient, and upbuilding response. Yes, there's plenty to make you afraid, but you don't need to stay afraid because we're in this together. You are not alone. I am with you. My friends, next time you feel fear, what will help you not stay afraid? What will be possible when we all refuse to stay afraid? And what will you do to get us there?